Okay, so my coaster trip is over. I'm gonna have to go back to work today. I know, so sad. But anyway, let's do my retrospective on this whole trip. So actually, this trip started as an alternative to the event that I'm wearing a shirt for because this was a design done by my friend, but I've done Cedar Point and Kennywood countless times, so I didn't think it was worth the money to do those parks that I had done so many times. I wanted to go to parks that I hadn't been to before, so if you count Columbus Zoo and the two Malibu Jacks locations as parks, as their own individual parks and not just credit stops, like if you consider those to be parks, I actually lumped 7 parks together on this trip, which that's unreal for me to think about, that I actually lumped 7 parks together on a trip. So the parks that I did on this trip were Columbus Zoo, Kings Island, Holiday World, Kentucky Kingdom, 2 Malibu Jacks locations, and Camden Park. So that's 7 parks in one trip. So on day 1, I went to I went to Columbus Zoo and I got to ride Sea Dragon. Now, Sea Dragon, it's pretty mild, but I'm gonna say that it's very similar to the Woodstock Express coasters at Kings Island, Kings Dominion, and Ghoster Coaster at Canada's Wonderland. It's very similar to those coasters, because I'm pretty sure it was actually the same layout, but Sea Dragon is better than the 3 at the Cedar Fair parks because, well, Sea Dragon still has the skid brakes and is manually released and braked. So Sea Dragon is a true classic. So there's the history with Sea Dragon that makes you appreciate it. Also, I believe that was John Allen's first coaster. So that's also something cool to think about. So there's more history to Sea Dragon, and being that it's the same layout as the Woodstock coasters, but it has a lot more history to it. I think Sea Dragon's better just because of that. That is something that will make one of the ride that can make one ride that's a clone of another better. Which one is their history to if they ride about the same? Which, I mean, they kind of do. So that's what I can say about that. So it's a cool ride, and you might think the admission is a little steep, but honestly, I don't mind it because I went to the zoo as well, and well, they have sea lions right in the same area where they have the coaster. So it was cool to see that, and it made me think of when I was at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, actually, because there were harbor seals that were on the beach when I was at Santa Cruz. So I did take like a 30-minute break from the rides to go look at the harbor seals when I heard they were there. So and Columbus Zoo, they have harbor seals too. They said it was the sea lions that wanted to come out the day that I was there, and there was a baby, so that was really cute. But yeah, so Columbus Zoo, if you're just going for credits, I don't know if you'll think the price is worth it, but from the standpoint of if you want to see the animals and you want to pick up credits, like if you're going for both, then it's very worth it. So that's what I have to say about that. The one thing I will say that's sort of a little parody worthy, though, with that, I did a lot of little short parodies on this trip, and those do spice things up in a fun way, I will say. But there's a plaque at the carousel that says William I. Mangles. So his middle initial was F. It even says so on the carousel. Like, how do you get that wrong? when it says W.F. Mangles literally on the carousel, and on the plaque you put William I. Mangles. Like, that's a bit parody worthy, and that was one of the things that I did. So, that evening, after going to Columbus Zoo, I was driving to my hotel, which was near Kings Island, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to stop by Kings Island on the way and get my night rides, because that way I can leave Kings Island at a time that allows me to get to Holiday World at a not unreasonable time, and I get the night rides. So I got night rides on Orion and the Beast, and the Beast retrack, excellent. Gravity Group really knocked it out of the park there. Yeah, they added an extra brake, but you know what? They steepened the drop, and there were several elements that they reprofiled and they put more force to them. So I don't even mind that they added an extra, that the park decided they wanted to add an extra brake, because the Gravity Group's reprofiling makes the ride so much better. So like, that's my thoughts on the refurbished Beast. And it, of course, gives a great night ride, flying through the woods. But also, on Orion, I sort of had a gray out moment. So, on the Orion's Belt element, and the final couple of hills were better than I remembered them being, because I rode Orion 2 times in 2020. Before this trip, Orion was the Giga that I had the least cycles on. Now it's probably the third most, because, like, I mean, Intimidator 305 probably is the one I have the most cycles on, because I got ERT on that, on that thing, so I was just lapping that thing in 2018. I probably got 40 rides on it 30 to 40 rides on it during ERT, which, that's just unreal. But, so like, that would be the one that I would have the most, and then Leviathan would be second most cycles, and then Orion now would be third, and Millennium Force would be fourth, and then Fury would be fifth, unfortunately, because the weather was bad when I was at Carowinds back in March. But this is about this trip, so Orion actually really impressed me. And also, I heard that since I had last ridden Racer, that Gravity Group had retracked that, and I like what they did to it. Like, the run out gives some good airtime. It was a lot better than I remembered. So my takeaway from Kings Island, it's a wooden coaster destination again. Like, before there were these Gravity Group retracks, the only wooden coaster that was of note was Mystic Timbers, and even that, I was like, there are other wooden coasters that are on par with that. So that's basically what I have to say about Kings Island. Oh, and also, as someone who's, side note, as someone who cares a lot about only eating healthy food, there actually was a food stand at Kings Island that I was able to eat. And when I say healthy, that means, like, no GMOs, no preservatives. They had fresh cut fries like what you'd see at Thrasher's on the boardwalk, where it's just cut the potatoes fresh and put them in peanut oil. Now, that might not exactly be healthy, but that's not genetically modified, so it was something I was able to eat. So I very much appreciated that. And, however, I will say on that note, though, I still think that Millie's at Kennywood should win Best Food at the Golden Ticket Awards. That's an ice cream place that has a non-dairy coconut milk based ice cream. So that's my thoughts on park food. I know they're a bit unconventional because I can't have most park food. So anyway, continuing on. So the next day I did a full day at Kings Island, and I basically already said my thoughts on that I'm like, it's a wooden coaster destination again. And then the day after that, I drove all the way to Holiday World. And this was the big mistake I made with this trip, was not looking at the weather, because I got rained out of Holiday World. Although you could say it wasn't really a mistake, because I went on a weekday. I got plenty of rides on Voyage. I got a couple on Thunderbird and one on Legend right before they shut things down. But I had a reservation in Louisville for that night, so I drove to Louisville after. Oh, I guess I should say my thoughts on Holiday World for that day, but I'm gonna save that for later because. So I drove to Louisville that night, and well, there was a convention in town. Like, the attendees were thankfully accepting of the fact that there was someone who was not there for their convention, and they were willing to let me, and they weren't disturbed by the fact that I was cooking in the parking lot of the hotel because, like, a lot of them were tailgating for a car convention, so they didn't mind that I was just cooking in a parking lot, because a lot of them were doing it too. It's just I wasn't there for the convention. I was there for Kentucky Kingdom. So now for my thoughts on Kentucky Kingdom. So I experienced, if I had to list park pet peeves, there's one thing that I experienced at Kentucky Kingdom that's a park pet peeve of mine that I'm not sure a lot of people will list as a park pet peeve, but it's something I'm going to list. I stayed at the Roadway Inn, which is right near the exit of the Kentucky Kingdom parking lot, and it's exit only, but that's for cars. Like, I was staying parked at my hotel. They made me walk all the way to the car entrance. 25 minutes. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not allowed to walk in through the exit. I'm not even going in with a car. Why are you enforcing the exit only rule on me? But, like, I mean, throughout my day at the park, when I eventually did get all the credits, because the day before, remember, I got rained out at Holiday World, so I was in a bad mood because the weather that day was predicting rain most of the day. So I was like, I want to get the credits as fast as I can, which luckily I was able to get them in like 40 minutes, except for T3, which apparently is closed forever, I heard. I could see it potentially getting the Great Nor'easter treatment, but I don't know. The park has invested a lot of money in that, and people still are getting hurt on it, so I could see it being gone for good. But anyway, back to this experience. So once I thankfully did get to the entrance before the park actually did open. So I got on Lightning Run and Storm Chaser as my first two rides, since those were the priorities, and both are great rides. Can't say enough good things about them, although I will say that the shin guards are annoying as someone who recently had knee surgery. So that's just something that was. But I got those credits. I got the rest of the credits, and of course Kentucky Flyer. That's the Gravity Group Junior Woody. That's probably the weakest of the three that I've ridden, but then again, the other two are the best rides in their park, and Kentucky Flyer is in a park with Lightning Run and Storm Chaser, which are two of the craziest airtime machines out there that will make your thighs sore after riding them, and I rode each more than 10 times, so it was basically like being at an Ace event once I got into the park. And because of my experience once I got into the park, I'm willing to forgive that one park pet peeve that I had, as that's probably a policy of the Kentucky State Fair Board, which owns Kentucky Kingdom's land, but doesn't operate Kentucky Kingdom, and not a policy of Kentucky Kingdom themselves. Even though the guy had a badge that said Kentucky Kingdom, who was enforcing it, it's probably a policy of the State Fair Board. So I'm willing to forgive that park pet peeve. It's not like, say, the locker policy at Six Flags Great Adventure, where I was met with long lines, with 90-plus minute lines on the big rides, and them telling me to put stuff in a locker when I literally didn't bring anything into the park except my car key. I didn't even bring my fucking phone into that park, but that's another side rant. But anyway, so after that, I decided I have a free day. I'm going back to Holiday World. So I experienced the rest of the park. So Voyage, I got a couple souvenirs for. I got a shirt, and I got an ornament, which, I mean, I wish I could show you, but unfortunately, my parents are doing stuff in my room, so, because there's an internet connection that goes through there, so I don't want to be in their way. But I did get out my little mini tree that I put up my Voyage ornament on, and I'm saying that that's for year-round, just like the bike ornament that I got a couple years ago. So I do have a couple year-round ornaments because, well, those activities are for year-round, like roller coasters and biking. It's always the season for those things. So that's a side note. And the fact that I got those souvenirs should tell you some of what I thought about Holiday World. So I loved the Voyage, obviously. I did get night rides when I went back for my free day. So, and by the way, this day actually was both a free day in my schedule, and my ticket to Holiday World was free because when we got rained out, they gave us rain check tickets. So it was a free day in two ways. But I got several more rides on the Voyage, including night rides, because the park was open late since it was a weekend. So I very much appreciated that. And yes, the Voyage does give the best night ride in the world. I will say that definitively after this experience. And I did get to ride the Raven, which I thought was kind of meh, but it's another one of the coasters that was featured in great old amusement parks that I've gotten to ride now. So I thought that was pretty cool. And another Ace landmark that I've gotten to ride. So I always love riding those. And I did check out the water park, and this is where there was another one of my park pet peeves. So I did Wildebeest and Mammoth, and I was going to do Cheetah Chase, but it said no single riders, so I didn't do that. No big deal, but I did get to do 2 hydromagnetic water coasters, and I've wanted to do one of those for a while, and the fact that they had single rider lines enabled it. So I did Wildebeest, and there was no problem. I did Mammoth, and I really loved it. But then when I got off the ride, there was a man who claimed to be a church youth group leader who thought my bag was one of his kids. He took my bag and put it in his pile. And, I mean, part of me is like, his story that he's some church youth group leader and he thought this was one of his kids, it's a pile of steaming horse shit. Because let me just tell you something. If you're a church youth group leader and you see a bag that you suspect is one of your kids, you don't move it without confirming with your kids that it belongs to one of them. You made up that story because you got caught. It's as simple as that. But there was no harm. None of my money was stolen or anything. And I'm certainly going to be watching things to make sure that nothing gets stolen. I think it's unlikely because, I mean, there's certainly the chance that, I sound like someone with a tinfoil hat probably, but I don't buy his story. I just don't. Something seemed off about him with the way he was saying that. But I'm glad I got my bag back because, I need my phone to do my job. I can't get anywhere without my keys or my wallet. So, yeah, I got that back, and the rest of my day was great, and I got the Voyage night rides. And then that night, after Voyage night rides, I drove all the way to Lexington to Malibu Jack, and I did another Malibu Jack's location, this one inside a former Kmart. So Kmart, bowling, and I don't know if I mentioned, I did a first Malibu Jack's location in Louisville after I got rained out of Holiday World. So after my second day at Holiday World, I drove to Lexington, and the next morning I did another Malibu Jack's location there, and it's a coaster in a former Kmart, and they also have a bowling alley, so that's 3 of my loves in one place. So of course I had to go there just because, well, Kmart bowling and roller coasters in one place. And it was as good as it sounds. And yeah, even though it was just an FEC, it was one that I knew I had to get to. And then that afternoon, I went to Huntington, West Virginia, and went to Camden Park. Big Dipper was my big 300th credit, to which I love being in the 300 club. And that airtime pop on the second drop, it is better than what you expect, even from the Coaster Studios hyping it up. But you've got to do it in the back row if you want airtime like that. It is insane, though. So, that is a must-do if you're lumping parks together in the southern Midwest. You've got to include Camden. Don't overlook it. And it's an Ace Coaster Classic with no seat dividers, no seat belts, just a single buzz bar and Century Flyer trains. So the history there is great, and also the fact that the fact that it's that it's so minimalistic in restraints, and also they have something they have a haunted house ride that's similar to Devil's Den at Conneaut Lake Park. So I was glad to get on the other one of those, because I'll never ride Devil's Den again, since I refused to go back to Conneaut in the Todd Joseph era. But those two rides were great, and they also had a sky ride, which I was like, how is this legal? Because the restraint was literally a bar that was like that high above you, and you could easily move it. It didn't lock into place, and there was no seatbelt. So I love having things like that where people will just behave. So, and they don't have to do something like that. But I'm also like, how is that legal? But I love that I've experienced something like that. But then there was one more pet peeve just to end things. So, pop quiz. If someone says they want a water, does that mean they want A, a water, or B, some hybrid of water and soda? It means they want a water. For goodness sake, Camden Park. I don't want high fructose corn syrup in my water. Don't look at it as a free soda, which I know some people would look at it as. I look at it as, I don't want high fructose corn syrup in my drink. I want to stay hydrated. When I said I wanted water, I meant water. So that was a pet peeve of mine, but overall, I would say it was a great trip, and every coaster enthusiast has to do a trip like this at some point, where they're lumping 4+ parks into one trip, and they're just doing a trip like this. So I'd say I'd go back to any of these places, really, because they were all really fun, and the way I did it, it was not super expensive. Part of that is because I cooked for myself and I was not doing a ton of eating out. So yeah, I mean, this was a good trip.